I think that, the word homosexuality was a medical word. It was a word it would be part of a diagnosis. So there was no term. I mean, I knew the word, but it seemed like a word that took place in a hospital setting when a doctor was diagnosing a patient. It wasn't something you could be or say you were. But it became clear to me that I loved people. I didn't have a name. I didn't think of myself as heterosexual or homosexual. But as I became more passionately involved, especially with one or two young women, girls, at the age of 14, it dawned on me, it occurred to me that there was a word for this. But it was actually a sad moment when the word occurred to me. Because when the word lesbian occurred to me, maybe this is lesbian, it was a moment where the social stigma entered into my thinking. And I felt very condemned by the word. And I had fear of the word. Is this what I am? Is this the name of my passion? Will this condemn me to social exclusion? Will this destroy my passion? So, at the beginning, I think I had to fight the word, or I had to struggle with the word in order to continue to feel what I felt or to maintain my relations. But it was it was very odd that the word came from elsewhere, and it came. I mean, homosexuality was medical, and lesbian was. I had a terrible image of what a lesbian might be, and then I thought, well, maybe I will become that terrible image. But there was no movement, there was no community, there was no L word, there was no media that covered these things. There was no. I was 14. I didn't know anyone who was a lesbian except I had heard of Sappho, and I understood she had died a very long time ago.
Merci. Thanks a lot. Nice day.
Thank you.
My teaching was really exceptional.
Thank you. I really appreciate your coming and saying that. It's very nice of you. Thank you. Thank you. Take good care.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Bon, Frédéric.
Frédéric.
Ja jsem si říkala, že bych si to koupila, kdyby to měli anglické.
Désolée, c'est pas le dernier, mais c'est celui que je suis en train de lire.
Ah oui?
C'est pour Delphine.
Ah, Delphine? Oh, qu'est-ce que vous...
Pas comme Delphine, hein? Delphine avec un I.
C'est à partir de 16 € la carte.
So I'm going to miss you guys. I dream about you already. Je rêve tout le temps. Persecutors. It's true. It's a little bit like my mother or something.
On va peut-être aller par là, en fait.
Il y a toujours des contraintes.
Oui, il y a des contraintes.
Il faut travailler avec mon personnalité.
Oui, non. Je vais travailler avec votre personnalité.
Je suis limitée.
Non, je pense pas.
Ah oui, oui, je pense oui. Je pense que oui.
Je m'étais dit, je voulais changer les photos traditionnelles dans les cafés. Ça vous ennuie de vous asseoir sur la table? Non, ça, non. Alors on fait comme ça. Ça vous ennuie de vous rapprocher? C'est moi qui vais me rapprocher alors. Je vais me rapprocher de vous en fait finalement. Voilà, voilà, comme ça. Voilà, 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 parfait.
You know, I think that I return to the same problems again and again in different ways and in different contexts. So, you know, in my dissertation, I wrote on desire and recognition in Hegel. And then I asked that question differently in Gender Trouble. And then maybe again differently in Undoing Gender. But I repose the questions. I just think them in different contexts. There's a question of grief and mourning, melancholia in relationship to gender and AIDS, and then I ask it again in relation to the war in Iraq, who we can grieve, who we cannot grieve, what is a grievable life. But for me, the questions become deepened and more complicated as I repose them. But I don't have a system. I don't try to reconcile my various works with each other. It doesn't interest me. I don't think they're contradictory, but I think they are a process. And I am always starting again with a different issue. But you know, I mean, gender and sexuality is part of what I do. Then there's more political work on Israel, on the war in Iraq, for instance, war photography, Susan Sontag. But then sometimes I just write on Kafka or Spinoza or something that I care about philosophically. But I don't try to reconcile all these things. It's not a system. It's a process that's on its way. I'm thinking about writing something on 20th century Jewish criticisms of state violence, and I'm interested in maybe doing something on 20th century Jewish philosophy and its relationship to the state, to Israel, to the possibility of critique. Whether there are traditions of critique, of critiquing state violence that come out of Jewish traditions in particular. And the reason is because it is very difficult for Jews to criticize Israel for fear that they will be seen as self-hating, or that they will open Israel to an anti-Semitic attack, right? So sometimes one falls silent because one fears the consequence of an open criticism. One issue that became quite central to activists in the 90s and the late 80s was whether there was sufficient or adequate public recognition for the deaths by AIDS, the losses by virtue of